like, and subscribe. On the way in the door, my people, I hope you all are having a truly fantastic day today on this Monday. Fanboys, you see the title. I guess there won't be a flu game for your king. That's asking too much. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on this at all, but I felt the need to address this. So obviously, Lebron James set out against Minnesota and Anthony Edwards, because he had a little code, kind of similar to the code that him and D Wade was making fun of Dirk Nowitzki for. But, the GOAT, the self-proclaimed king, the guy whose fanboys go to bat for him religiously, defend his false legacy with their lives. Fanboys, you will get no flu game to brag about from your king. So yes, the Lakers lost, and surprise, surprise. But anyway, moving on. I want to talk about this whole thing, this whole notion that Michael Jordan played in a watered down league, and that contributing to him being so dominant. So from 1988 to 95, the NBA added 6 new teams. That was the Miami Heat, the Magic, the Charlotte Hornets, the Timberwolves, the Raptors, and the Grizzlies. They added those 6 teams. And because they added those 6 teams, a lot of people try to use that against the legacy of Michael Jordan by saying that, hey, look, he played in a watered down league. The talent pool was diluted with these extra teams. And there is some truth to that. There's some truth to that. But what I want to say about that is this. I don't believe that had any bearing on the championships. I don't believe that had any bearing on the championships. Because if you look at it like this, what I think that could have aided in is them having a better regular season record. Because you'll get to play the weaker teams, and there are more weaker teams to play in the regular season. So I can see how that could have bolstered their regular season record. And, fanboys, if you didn't know, 5 out of 6 championships, Michael Jordan won 60-plus games during the regular season. And 5 out of 6 of those, 6-0, no Game 7, 6 finals MVP championships that he has that your king knows nothing about. So yeah, I could see it bolstering the regular season record. But here's the thing. By the time you get to the playoffs, it doesn't matter how diluted the pool is. It doesn't matter how many teams you have in the league. If it expands to 50, by the time you get to the playoffs, it is still the best 8 teams from each conference to make it. And so by the time you get to the playoffs, you are still facing the best of the best. And certainly by the time you get to the finals, you still have the 2 best teams. So regardless of what you were able to do in the regular season, because maybe the talent pool was diluted, and because like I said, because you probably got to play more of the lesser teams, by the time you get to the playoffs, you're still facing off against the best of the best. And you still get to show your dominance. And matter of fact, I would argue that if it is indeed diluted, then by the time you get to the, and if it's diluted, so what happens is, and we all know this, in the 90s, most teams had one superstar, and then the supporting cast. Most teams had one star standout and then the supporting cast. Whether you're talking about Barkley and Phoenix, whether you're talking about Reggie Miller and the Pacers, whether you're talking about Ewing and the Knicks, most teams had the one star standout. And, they might have had some really great role players or, possibly another all-star. But for the most part, it was that superstar's job to carry the team. So I would argue that if the pool is indeed more diluted, then that really makes it more of a superstar versus superstar thing. And that really is going to highlight not only which superstars hone their skills to be the best, which superstars want it, but which superstars can actually lead their team. Because again, MJ, Barkley, Reggie Miller, Ewing, Olajuwon, for the majority of their careers, some of these players changed in the latter parts of their years, but for the majority of their careers, they didn't have a big three like LeBron James. They didn't have other players who were capable of carrying as big a load as they were on the team with them. It was the superstars and then it was everybody else. So yeah. So I would argue that like I said, if the pool was indeed diluted, then that really made it more about the superstars and showing how the superstars could lead these lesser players to victory. But at the end of the day, like I said, by the time you reach the playoffs, you're really dealing with the best of the best, no matter what, no matter how diluted the pool had become. By the time you get to that point, you've reached the best of the best. And so this is like, a lot of times when we talk about Bill Russell, and people like to use the argument about the 11 championships when you try to talk about championships. But we all know why we say Michael Jordan is the GOAT, because he actually, in every category, he's the best of the best. If you're talking about statistics and dominance and being the definitive alpha on your team and championships and all of those things together, and even throwing influence in there, all of those things together, Michael Jordan has the best combination of all of those things that you can possibly get in one person. But when people like to throw in the Bill Russell thing with the 11 championships, well, most of the time they don't talk about that. Bill Russell actually had a good team. Bill Russell actually had a good team, that he led to those 11 championships. And like I said, because it was a lot less teams back then, that means from year to year, there was a lot less chance of things changing. So if you were in a good situation and you had good teammates and you had someone who was a great leader like Bill Russell and you could keep the foundation intact for year to year, well, then it was very likely that you had a high championship shot each year because things weren't changing that much from year to year. So again, like I said, I think the whole argument about MJ playing in a watered down league, like I said, the only way I can see that is affecting is in the regular season. Like I said, but because you probably wind up playing some of there are more lesser teams to help boost your regular season record. But by the time you get to the playoffs, it's all about you've narrowed it down to who's the best in the league at that point. So yeah, I don't think that's a very valid argument unless you're just simply arguing. And like, for instance, maybe if you want to argue the 72-10 Bulls being the greatest team ever, maybe there's an argument for that. Like I said, because of that regular season record, and maybe you could bring in the fact that the league was so-called watered down. But to try to diminish his championships with that's not a valid argument. Fanboys, let that one go. That's not a valid argument. But anyway, we're going to hold up here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think there's any validity to MJ playing in a watered down league and how that affects his legacy? Do you actually think that helped him win championships? Or do you think, like I believe, like I said, I believe that if you believe it was watered down, you know, I feel like that something like that is kind of hard to quantify. But if you believe it was watered down, do you believe that's something that's more going to affect the regular season? Like I said, being able to stack up more wins in the regular season. But like I said, by the time you get to the playoffs and definitely the finals, you are still facing the best of the best. So no one can deny that part. That means each year, you know, 91, 92, 93, MJ, by the end of it, he was facing the best of the best, and he conquered that. And when he came back, 96, 97, 98, he did the same thing all over again. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. You all have a truly fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. All right.